Hi everybody. All right, so today I've got a few things I want to go over, and then we're going to continue on making a few changes to the Connect 4 project. So first up, I've got a daily schedule. So basically I'm planning on delivering the YouTube videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week at 2:30. Now this is just to give you guys an idea. It's not a hard set schedule. I can easily change this, modify it. I'm sure I'll probably make some changes or add some classes if we need to as we go. But I feel like this gives us, this kind of staggers us throughout the week, and it seems like the simplest way to go about it. But if there are any issues, please let me know if these times work for you or if I can adjust it, and I'll try to do that. All right, next up, I have a due date now for the Connect 4 assignment. So this is going to be due May 20th. That is next Wednesday, all right? So I'm probably going to finish this. The videos this week will certainly finish the Connect 4. There's not, it's a fairly simple project. And really what I'm expecting you guys to do is just follow along and perform similar steps using a local GitHub repo while pushing your changes to a remote GitHub that's publicly accessible. So let's take a look at the final specs for what I'm expecting for this project. So this is listed under assignments, and I've got assignment 1. Maybe I should rename this projects. Okay. All right, there we go. So, pretty simple. Like I said, you're just going to follow the video series and create the Connect 4 game using Git version control and a public GitHub remote repository. You're going to submit your completed Connect 4 game to the Dropbox. You're also going to share your GitHub account with me so that I can follow your progress and I can see your commit history that you are working on doing everything properly. I'd also like you to complete an additional Git tutorial. So there's all kinds of Git tutorials on the web. So what I'd like you to do is select one and go through and complete that tutorial. Most likely that tutorial will not involve GitHub. It's just going to be a local Git repository tutorial that's going to help you practice Git commands. As you're doing this, I'd like you to take 5 intermediate screenshots so you can show me basically step by step that you went through and did everything. Also, I need you to submit the URL for the tutorial. So this is something that you guys can work on today and tomorrow, and then I'll have another video on Wednesday where we'll see. I might come pretty close to finishing the Connect 4 at that point. Okay. So the other thing that I guess I should mention as well is I want you guys to also think about what you'd like to do for your next project, your personal one. So I know it was mentioned, I think Grace mentioned she would be interested in doing maybe a card game. Just try to think about something. Card game is an excellent idea, by the way. We're using the same sort of technology that we're using for the Connect 4. There might be another type of game. You might want to do a trivia game, whatever. I'll leave it to you, but I'd like you guys to think about that because we are going to be starting the next project very, very soon. And keep in mind, this intersession is a highly compressed schedule. So make sure you're keeping up with the work, and if there's any issues, contact me right away because there's really not a lot of room to postpone things or give an extension. Because the next assignment's going to be coming up. So it's really tricky if you fall behind. All right, so today what I plan to do is I would like to replace the drawing to use proper images. So if I go to my C drive and I go to Connect 4, if I open up game in brackets, and this is just where we left off with the last class. So I'll preview that. And then, of course, if I click on the various columns, I can see that it's placing the pieces in Connect 4. But obviously, this is extremely, it's not very visually appealing. So the next step would be to replace the drawing we're using to use images instead. And I've got that set up now. So if we're on D2L and we go to lectures, if we look at May 11th, I have a folder here which we can download, and this is the Connect 4 assets. And I'm going to extract this, and I'm going to extract this to my Connect 4 folder. Okay, there we go. So I've got my game here, and now I've got my assets. So this would be a good time to open up my git bash. And I can go git status. And we can see here that there's an untracked file called assets. So obviously I'm going to want to add this to the repository. Okay, so it's gone through and it's added that, and we can see here that there's 3 files, 3 images, c4 board.png, player1.png, and player2.png. All right, so now I can go ahead. Actually, you know what I forgot to do? I added these to the master. I added these to the master branch. Darn it. Okay, so that's right away right there. You know, basically, and this is why we got to practice this every day, because it's very easy to not have a feel for what you're doing. Anytime we do a change, an addition, a new feature, we want to use a separate branch. That way, someone else who might be working off the master isn't going to be affected by our changes. So I need to unstage these. So I'm going to go git restore. That did not work. Okay, git restore, let's see, git restore. Okay, git restore, sorry, staged. It's telling me the command to use. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we're back to normal, everything's okay. All right, so I'm going to now switch to a new feature branch. So git checkout -b, and I'm gonna say that this is my asset update. Okay, now I am on a branch asset update. So now I can go git add assets. Okay, and it's added my files, so that's great. So now I'm ready. I can now begin making my edits. So I'm gonna open up my game here, and I think I've already got that, but I'm gonna open this up in brackets. Here we go. All right, so we've got this, and of course I did the preview already, so we can see what it looks like. And the assets that I want to use, let's take a quick look at them. Okay, so we'll do this in 2 steps, basically. The first step, we're going to substitute out, or basically we just need to add in the background, this background image for the board, rather than drawing the outline shapes, the outline of the rectangles. So I'm gonna wanna look at the properties of this board. So it's 726, I'll write this down. 625. All right, so what we can do then is we can resize our canvas so that it'll fit this. Because right now, if I look at my HTML, my canvas is only 700 by 600. So it's not even big enough to fit the entire image. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now we could make it bigger. We don't, as long as the size is equal to the image, we can make it bigger if we want. We just don't want to make it smaller than this image. So I'm going to say 726 by 625. Okay, and now we have a little bit of code here that we need to modify. So right now, when we draw places on the board, we are looping through and we're drawing a stroked rectangle to do that. And we're also drawing a stroked rectangle here. So we're gonna wanna comment these out and replace this with one call to draw the background quad. So I can comment these out for now, and we'll notice that there's an empty canvas. We don't have anything being drawn. So how do we draw images in HTML5 canvas? Okay. So we use this draw image function, and we can see here that the draw image function is going to take a few parameters. The simplest version takes a reference to the image object from the HTML document, and then it takes an X and Y position, and that's going to be the top left of the image. So the first thing I need to get is an actual reference to that image. Now, right here, I've got a Mozilla link that shows us a few ways we can create an image. So this is a very simple one, and we've seen this before, where we create a variable. It'll be a global one in this case, var image equals new image, and then we set the source to the path that we want. So I'm gonna do both of these two things. I'm gonna create a global image for the background, and then I'm going to do a call to draw the image. So I'll just do this up at the top here. So var board image equals new image, and then board image dot source equals, and we just need to go to the path. So relative to connect4, okay, the file I'm editing is game.html, and we see that we have a folder assets, so we have to put in that path. We have to say assets / and then c4board.png. So the source is assets c4board.png. Okay, and there's my image. So now I can come into my draw function, and we get the context, the 2D context, and I'm gonna go ctx.draw image, and I'm going to draw it at 0, 0. And I will draw board image. And that should be it. So let's refresh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, so I'll have to hit F12. Let's see if I have any console errors. I do. Oh, okay, I have a typo. It should be CTX, and I went CRX. Okay, so it does not like this once again. What have I done? ctx.drawImage 00 board image. I did not expect that. Okay, so I see my mistake here. The basically it's image first and then the X and Y position. So all right. So let's fix that. So I'm gonna go board image, and then I'll position it at 0, 0, so the top left of the screen. And there we go. So it looks pretty good. I've got my board drawn there. And so the next step now is to replace the individual calls for the pieces with the actual images. And you'll see I still have the code hooked up to draw the pieces. So basically we just need to replace those draw calls with the draw call for the player 1 and player 2 images, the circular ones. And we're gonna need to adjust the positions a little bit to be able to make this work. Okay. So first thing, let's grab the, actually, let's draw the entire grid again. So I'm gonna update this and we're gonna see that we have the grid. So there's a few things that we kind of need to do here. Probably the first one though is to actually draw the circular player image instead of just drawing a filled rectangle. I'm gonna keep this grid here though because I think it'll be helpful when we want to adjust the positions. So the grid I think will come in handy later on. So let's set up an image for the player. Let's go with the player 1 image here. So I'm gonna go back to my code and I'm gonna create a new variable. So var player 1 image equals new image, and player 1 image dot source equals assets / player1.png. Okay. And now when we render player 1, we just need to basically substitute in the code here. Okay. So to make this work, we have to see what the spacing is in terms of our board. So I'm going to open this up, and basically, if we look in the bottom left in Microsoft Paint, we'll notice wherever I place my cursor, that gives me the pixel position in that image. So what I want to know is, I want to know what is the spacing between each of the positions. So I'm going to place this right now in the top left here, and I'm going to write down the position. So I have an X position of 15 and a Y position of 10. Now I'm going to move all the way over to the farthest column, and I'm going to go once again, and I'm getting 617 and I'm getting 8. Okay, so if I were to look here, I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps. And if I look at what's 617 minus 15, that's 602. So what I can assume here is that each of these are spaced out by 100 pixels, which is good because that's what I'm already using. And it's a nice easy number to work with. Now let's look at as well if we go vertically. So I have my first position is 1510, and I go down to the bottom one, and the last position I have is 12, and sorry, I have 15 and 514. So once again, if I take 500 and minus 10, I'm getting 504. And I've done 5 jumps. So once again, it looks like, I mean, the 4 pixels, that's just a rounding, that's just an error of my mouse position. So it looks like it's 100. So that's good news. That's gonna make it much easier for us. So we can pretty much go back to our code, and you'll notice that we were spacing out the columns by 100. Now, if it turned out that the grid spacing was different, I would have to adjust how I'm setting that up. But fortunately, we're gonna be able to reuse most of this code. All right, so I've got my board image.source, or my player 1 image. So when I come into here, instead of drawing the filled rectangle, I can now go ctx.drawImage, and I'm gonna go with player 1 image. And I'm gonna just start with the position that I was using before. So the position was column times 100, row times 100. And I was using a size of 100 by 100. Now I don't need the size anymore because it's gonna size it to the actual image, which makes me think I should check what the actual image size is. Okay, so player 1, if I edit this, and I go to resize pixels, I'll notice it's 97 by 96. So that just means that the image is a little bit, when it was chopped up, it wasn't done quite perfect, right? And if we were working on a professional game, we would make sure that the artist gave us an asset that was 100 by 100. Because it's not 100 by 100, we could potentially edit it to fix it and basically make it 100 by 100. Or we can just offset it in code, which is a little bit hacky, but it just saves us time. So that's what I plan to do. So let's see how this looks right now when I run the game. Okay, so we can see here that it is positioned in the top left, but it's a little bit too far to the up and to the left. So we basically just need to offset this a little bit. Okay. All right. So the way I can do that, a simple way, actually I'm just going to turn the grid off because I don't think we actually need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an offset. So every time I place this, I'm going to calculate its position based on the grid of every column and every row is 100 pixels over. But then I'm going to apply an additional offset. And I will basically do a visual test. I'll modify the values in the offset until it looks correct. Now, this is not how you would actually do a professional game. You would have the assets made perfectly, so you wouldn't have to do some sort of adjustment on them. But it's better that we just do this than I try to play around with fixing art assets. So I'm going to create a new variable, and this is going to be called var, I'll call it player1 offset, and it's an array. And I'm just going to give it, let's say I go 10 pixels, 10 pixels. So this is how much I'm moving it to the right and down to basically line it up with its position on the grid. So now, if I come in here and I draw this image, I'm going to say column times 100 plus player offset 0 because that's the x coordinate, and then row times 100 plus player offset 1. So let's see how this looks now. Okay, that's that is accidental. That is funny. Did that really? That is. Okay, no, it's not quite perfect. So it's a little bit to the left. It's a little bit to the left, maybe a little bit down. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go, let's go 12. Let's try that. It's still a little bit. Okay, let's go 15. Okay, it's a little too much. It looks like it's up a bit high too. So I'm going to go 13 and I'm going to go 11. Okay, so the 11, I don't think that was right. Let's go back to 10. So 14. That looked pretty good. Okay, so it needs to go up just slightly, so I went the wrong way that one time, so let's go 9. Oops. Okay, that looks really good. Yeah, that's, okay, there we go, we got it. So, I mean, if it's off by 1 pixel, it's not a huge deal, but you want to get it as close as possible. So the next step now is going to be to set up now the player 2. So the second player. So player 2 image.source equals assets player 2.png. And I have to declare the image as well. So var player 2 image. Okay, and then we'll just have it draw the player 2 image. Okay, now I don't want to use the same offsets. If I look at this image, let's take a look and see what its size is. So it's actually a different size. So that's because I chop these images up and I'm not a pro. So that means that we don't want to use the same array for chopping the images. So I'm going to create my own separate offset array for the second player. So I'm going to come up here and let's see here. I've got my player 1 offsets. I'll just copy these. And I'll just rename it player 2 offsets. And I'll come down to where I'm drawing the player 2 image right here. So I just need to change that so it's drawing the right image. And then it's going to draw the right, pick the right offsets. So now I'll run the game and I'll see where it's drawing the player 2. So we see player 1. Well, that's pretty good. Okay, so that looks not bad. Anyway, they're probably off by a pixel or two, so it's really not a big deal. The assets should be created so that they are perfect to begin with. This isn't something that we should have to spend too much time doing. So there we go. We've got our Connect 4 board, and it's all set up. So I think that's pretty much everything I'm going to do for today's video. The next step that we'll take with this is I'm going to offset the board, so I'm going to move it down a little bit. And then I'm going to set a clickable area at the top. And that will allow you to pick which column. And when you do that, I'm going to try to do a simple animation where the piece drops into place. So that's kind of the next step to do after this. So actually, I'm not stopping the video. We're going to now switch to doing Git commands. This is going to be all the development. So if I go now back to my Git bash, I can go Git status, and I can see that game.html was modified. So I can go Git diff game.html, and this is going to show me all of the different places where I've made changes. So we can see right here, it's showing me that I've added these lines, okay, in my code. And we can also see later on that I've added the lines in green, and I've removed the lines in red. Those are basically the edits. So we can use this to look through, and I can also make this window much bigger so I can see everything. Okay. I can move through and see all of the edits that I've made here. Okay, and that's it. So really, to make that change was pretty much was a pretty simple edit to make. So to quit, I just hit Q, and now I'm back to here. So let's try that again. It might be better for me to use full screen. So I can go git diff. Okay, and there it goes. It shows me all of the differences. So this is something you want to do before you commit your changes, because, for example, I might see that I left some debug statements there, or I might see an obvious mistake that I don't want to commit. So that's good. So now I can go git add game.html. And what I've done there is I've staged my change, and now I'm going to go commit. And the message is I have added new art assets and set up board to use images. Okay. So I'm all good there, and now I want to push this branch to the remote repository. So git push origin. Let's just double check to make sure that I'm using the right command. So I go to my tutorial here. Okay, so git push origin and then my branch name. Okay. So git push origin and then asset update. Okay, there we go. So now if I switch to my GitHub, okay, and I go to my Connect 4 project, I will see that I have, someone has pushed a change from a branch. So I can now take a look at this, and I've got my commit message here, okay, and I'm now going to create a pull request. So basically I want the lead programmer now to take a look at this change and see if it's ready to go. So I have completed the change to switch to images for the board. And I'm going to create a pull request. Okay, and now I see that there is the option to merge the pull request. So there's no conflicts, so that means not two people didn't try to edit the same file and merge both of them. So I can now go ahead and just directly merge this branch into the master branch. Okay, so that's all been merged, and now I can go and I can delete my branch because I don't need it. And if I go to my code, I can look at, I now have some additional commits. So today I did a commit where I added art assets and set up the board to use images, and then I merged those into the master branch. So now I can go git checkout master to switch back to the master branch. Okay, so when I switched branches, the fact is I had these assets open. It has to delete the folder because the assets folder only exists in the asset update branch. So I deleted those, and I may need to close this as well. And let's try again, yes. Okay, there we go. So if I go git status, okay, everything is up to date, and now I want to basically check out what the latest changes from the remote. So let's just double check that I'm doing that right. So I pushed a branch to GitHub, create a pull request. I did all that. Merge, I merged it. So git pull origin master. That is then going to basically grab the latest changes from the remote. So git pull origin master. And there we go. So now if I go git status, everything's up to date, and I will have all of the files that I've worked on in my Connect 4. I've got my assets folder and I've got my HTML. I double click on that. Okay, I've got my game working there. Okay, I could have done that as well. I could have gone ls, and that would have listed all the files that I have in the repository. Okay, so that is going to conclude this video. So basically, just to quickly review, we do have this assignment coming up. So make sure that you are going through, following each video. Don't try to leave it to the very end where you're thinking, well, I'll go through all the videos. It's just not a good way to work. To get the benefit of becoming a strong programmer, you need to program every day. And by avoiding the programming and trying to do it all in one chunk at the end when your project's due, you're a couple problems, right? You're probably not going to get a good result, but you're not getting the benefit of coding every day. So try to keep up with each video, do the steps assigned, and we also have the GitHub tutorial that you need to do independently. So I'd like you guys to work on that. Wednesday, I'll have my next video where I'll spice up the look and add a little bit of animation to the Connect 4 board. Okay, well that's it. Have a great rest of your day.